Before you start laughing at the matching tracksuits, the Nike sneakers, and the whole idea of a spaceship hiding behind a comet, just stop for a second. This isn't a story about a bunch of crazy, gullible idiots. This is a story about intelligent, educated, ordinary people who went looking for meaning and followed it right off the edge of a cliff. This is the story of Heaven's Gate. And once you truly understand how it happened, step by step, you'll stop feeling so superior. Very, very quickly. Let's rewind. The place is America. Time is the early 1970s. The country is a mess. The Vietnam War has left deep scars. The Cold War is a constant humming dread in the background. The space race has people looking to the stars for answers, while on the ground, traditional religion is losing its grip. It's a time of spiritual chaos, a free-for-all of new ideas, gurus, and experimentation. Everyone is looking for something. Into this whirlwind walks a man named Marshall Applewhite. Born in 1931, he was the son of a Presbyterian minister. He served in the army. He was a gifted, charismatic music professor. On paper, he was the picture of stability. But in reality, his life was completely unraveling. He was fired from his university job over a personal scandal. His marriage fell apart, felt lost, like he had no place in the world. His entire sense of self was gone. Then, in 1972, he checks himself into a psychiatric hospital. And it's there he claims to have a profound spiritual awakening. But it wasn't a vision of grandeur or power. It was a quiet, chilling realization, I don't belong on this planet. Around the same time, he meets a woman named Bonnie Nettles. She was a married nurse, but she was also deeply immersed in the world of astrology, theosophy, and fringe interpretations of biblical prophecy. They didn't fall in love in a romantic sense, but they bonded over was something far more potent and far more dangerous. They became convinced that they had known each other in past lives. They believed their meeting wasn't a coincidence, but was orchestrated by higher powers. They believed they shared a cosmic purpose. Together, they started diving into everything they could get their hands on. The Bible, especially the Book of Revelation, science fiction novels, New Age mysticism, and slowly, a bizarre but internally consistent idea began to form. They weren't just teachers. They were the two witnesses described in the Book of Revelation, sent to Earth for a short time to deliver a message. They were chosen. They were temporary. They were not meant to stay here. By the mid-1970s, they hit the road, holding meetings in people's living rooms and small community halls. Their message wasn't the typical fire and brimstone sermon. It was delivered calmly, rationally. It sounded strangely logical. They taught that our human bodies are just containers or vehicles. Our true selves, our souls, are just the passengers inside. Earth, they explained, is not our home. It's a kind of cosmic classroom, a garden for souls to grow in. And human evolution doesn't just stop when you die. The next level of evolution, what they called the next level, required you to consciously leave your human body behind. People listened. Not the desperate or the down and out you might expect. They attracted teachers, business owners, artists, nurses seekers, who already felt a sense of alienation from mainstream society. People who heard Applewhite's message of "I don't belong here" and thought, "Me too." By 1975, a group of about 20 people in Oregon sold all of their possessions, left their families, and simply vanished to follow the two. The media went into a panic. Families were terrified. They were labeled a dangerous cult. But the group itself didn't panic. They did the opposite. They went underground. They went quiet. And for years, they worked on refining their beliefs, turning their fledgling philosophy into a rigid, all-encompassing lifestyle. Life inside the group became incredibly strict. They wore identical, modest clothing to erase gender and individuality. They all had the same short haircuts. Sex was forbidden. Alcohol and drugs were forbidden. Any form of personal desire was framed as lower-level programming, a glitch in the human vehicle that needed to be overcome. Years later, some male members, including Applewhite himself, would even undergo voluntary castration, not as a punishment, but as the ultimate act of freeing themselves from the vehicle's control. There were no chains. There were no armed guards. It was just total, unwavering belief. Leaving wasn't forbidden. For most, it was simply unthinkable. Where else would they go? Then, in 1985, a crisis strikes. Bonnie Nettles, the co-leader, is diagnosed with cancer and dies. For any other group, this should have been the end. The leader who preached about transcending the human body had died from a very human disease. But for Heaven's Gate, the belief didn't shatter. It evolved. Nettles' death wasn't a failure. It was proof. Her body, her vehicle, had failed. But her consciousness had successfully shed it and ascended to the next level. Death became the ultimate confirmation of their doctrine, not its refutation. Now, Marshall Applewhite was the sole leader. And the group, always ahead of the curve, moved online. They started a web design business called Higher Source and created one of the very first cult websites in history. And there, in the quiet corners of the early internet, they waited. Then, in 1996, something appeared in the sky. The Hale-Bopp comet. It was bright, spectacular, and visible to the naked eye for months. On late-night radio talk shows, a few fringe astronomers began speculating that they had spotted a large, strange object following in the comet's wake. The rest of the world, it was a quirky news item. For Heaven's Gate, this wasn't new information. It was the sign they had been waiting for over 2 decades. This was confirmation. They believed a massive spacecraft from the next level was hidden in the comet's tail, coming to collect them. Their graduation day was finally here. They calmly rented a large mansion in an upscale neighborhood of Rancho Santa Fe, California. They began to prepare. It was all done methodically, without any sense of fear or distress. They filmed their now infamous exit videos, where members, smiling and articulate, explained why they were happy and excited to be leaving. In late March of 1997, over a period of 3 days, 39 members of the group ended their lives in a meticulously planned ritual. They put on identical black tracksuits and brand new black and white Nike Decade sneakers. They wore matching arm patches that read Heaven's Gate Away Team. In shifts, they drank a mixture that they trusted would help them transition. They would then lie down in their bunk beds, prepared in a way they believed would release their souls. They believed they weren't dying. They were simply shedding their containers to board the spaceship. Marshall Applewhite was among the last to go. There was no struggle, no panic. There was only absolute certainty. This wasn't an act of mass madness. It was the final, logical step of an incremental belief system built over 25 years. You have to understand, nobody joins a death cult. That's not how it works. They join a self-improvement group. They join a spiritual community. Join a place where their deep-seated feeling of not belonging finally makes sense. By the time the final, shocking ending arrives, their old life, their old identity is already gone. Heaven's Gate wasn't really about aliens and spaceships. It was about the universal human need for belonging. It was about turning profound loneliness into a special destiny. It was about transforming confusion into purpose and turning deep emotional pain into a sacred mission. And the terrifying lesson here is that once a belief system gives you a reason for why you feel so broken, you will protect that belief at all costs, even if in the end it destroys you. This was Heaven's Gate. Sometimes we laugh at stories like this to keep them at a distance. And sometimes we have to look closer and recognize that people can walk willingly into the deepest darkness, completely convinced that it's the only way home. Thanks for watching. If this story made you think, consider subscribing for more deep dives into the human experience.